The left has been pushing this for many years, decades now at this point, that we need to have a rising China. Donald Trump comes in and says, no, we don't. There was a kind of consensus on the left and the right. Rising China is good, globalization is good, big markets all over the world, that's a good thing. We're all just going to have total unfettered free trade, and there aren't going to be any distinctions. Trump comes on the scene and says, no, China's not treating us right. We need to have our own national policies, regardless of what it means for China themselves. And so he takes this hard line. At the White House briefing yesterday, the media kept pushing this idea that the virus is like America's fault or Europe's fault. And President Trump pushes back, as always. He goes, ask China. Put your focus back on China, the real source of the problem.
Said many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you. I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay. Anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But you pointed to me. I have two questions, Mr. President.
Next, please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish, but can I ask you
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I love the way he handled this. That woman, that first woman that asked the question, should be fired. I mean, she won't be fired because she wasn't doing her job as a reporter, but she was doing her job as a leftist hack. So obviously she'll probably get a promotion. She's going to be the editor wherever she is. She asks the question. She basically makes the accusation that America is doing a terrible job on the virus and letting lots of people die and is probably to blame for a lot of the pandemic, right? A lot of the, we're not controlling the spread. And Trump says, what are you talking about? Ask China. They're the one that actually is to blame for all of this. And she doesn't have an answer for that because she knows it's true. So she says, the woman, if you couldn't see the clip, the woman is Asian. And so she says, why'd you ask me that question specifically? Why'd you tell me to do that specifically? Is this the first time you've ever heard Trump say, talk to China? I don't think so. I think Trump's been saying that since he came down the elevator in 2015. I think he's been saying that almost as much as build the wall. These days, a lot more than build the wall. So it's a totally dishonest, disingenuous playing of the race card from this woman, whatever reporter she is, whoever she works for. She said, why'd you ask me? It's because you're a racist or something like that. And then he says it was a nasty question, and she fights back. She goes, it's not a nasty question, but why does it matter? Oh, that gives away the game. Why does it matter when it comes to China? Well, you said it matters who's to blame. You said it matters whose policies are not working that well, right? Well, you said it matters when you blame the United States, but then all of a sudden when you mention that it's actually China's fault, it doesn't matter. We're not allowed to use a term that describes where the virus comes from when we call it the Wuhan virus or the Chop Flui or the bubonic plague or whatever. You're not allowed. That's terrible and bigoted and racist and sexist probably. And I don't know, maybe it's homophobic too. I don't know. It's all those isms, right? But then when you call it the European virus, like Andy Cuomo, that's a fine thing. That's all well and good. This didn't stop in the White House briefing. Later on CNN, you had Brian Stelter there making the same racism accusation. Why all the fighting over China? Because China is the key to the current liberal agenda. China is the key to globalization. So the woman in the press briefing calls Trump a racist for mentioning China, because it's the last card they've got, right? It's the last refuge of a scoundrel. And then Brian Stelter on CNN doubles down, says this is key evidence. Ignore the question, ignore the point. This is just evidence of Trump's bigotry.
Well, clearly the president was rattled enough to walk off because he didn't want to hear the questions from Caitlin Collins and Weijia Zhang. And I think what we saw in that exchange with Weijia Zhang is something that has racial overtones. it is racist to look at an Asian American White House correspondent and say, ask China. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is part of a pattern of behavior from the president that goes back many years. So he doesn't have the benefit of the doubt that someone might have if, for the first time ever in their life, they made a comment like that to a reporter. But the president has been rattled by Wei Zhejiang's questions in the past. He has treated her and other female reporters differently in the past. And he's also had this pattern of reacting to minority journalists in a very specific and different way, Wolf.
Listen to what he's saying. He's saying that if President Trump mentions China and the person that he's talking to is Asian, if anybody that he's talking to is Asian, he mentions China, that's racist and he's not allowed to do it. They can't get more obvious about it. What they're telling you is, hey, when you are trying to upset our agenda, shut up. Hey, okay, look, you want to blame China, we want to blame anybody but China, so saying China is racist. Do you remember they did this to Trump the last time he was at a press briefing, and an Asian reporter who said she was from Hong Kong came out and asked this very fluffy question for China. And he said, who do you work for? She goes, Phoenix TV. He goes, yeah, is that owned by the Chinese Communist Party? She goes, no, it's owned by Hong Kong. Yeah, you sure? And so then he answered the question. The left went crazy. They said, he's a racist. He's calling out this Asian reporter and suggesting that she works with the Chinese Communist government. Guess what? She did. The news organization, Phoenix TV, is owned by the Chinese government. They actually bought a station just over the border in Mexico, and they're broadcasting into Southern California, where I am right now. And Senator Cruz and I spoke about this on our show Verdict, and Senator Cruz is now trying to get that TV station shut down. But Trump was right the first time on this. They still called him racist. And then here, he's not making any sort of suggestion or that, this woman's working for China. He's just saying, ask China, like he's asked of many other reporters throughout this entire crisis, and they play the race card. China is the key. That's what this is about. Okay, it's not just about Orange Man Bad. China is the key to globalization. China is the key to the liberal world order. There's a reason that the left and parts of the right, the globalist right or the kind of, economists and sophister and accountant right, the right that just looks at the world as an economic question, they've been pushing China for so long. That vision of the world is one in which we'll have relative peace all around the world as long as we keep expanding markets. And the most important market to expand to is China, obviously, because they've got the most people and they keep buying up all of our news media. They keep buying up all of our sports. They keep buying up all of our Hollywood movies. They're the key. That's why Hollywood is really nice to them. The news media are really nice to them. And the NBA, I mean, you remember there was that NBA scandal where there was some criticism made of the Chinese government by an NBA employee. There was some support given to Hong Kong, and they had to back off of that. They had to defend the Chinese communists over the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong, because he who pays the piper calls the tune. And that's the problem. That's the problem with that world order, that they're suggesting, oh, wouldn't it be so nice? You can get global free trade and, all the prices of goods goes down. And yeah, you might lose your job. And yeah, we might not have any manufacturing in the United States. And yeah, as a result of that, opioid overdoses might go up. And yeah, suicides might go up. But we'll get really cheap consumer goods and we'll have relative peace. And won't that be nice? Who's calling the shots then? That's the trouble. Who's calling the shots? Some sort of international organizations, international trade treaties that have no bonds of loyalty to our local communities, to our families, to our states, to our country. No accountability, obviously, to you, the citizen. That's the problem. You lose all of the political rights that we've come to cherish in our self-government here in the United States. There is no such thing as a free lunch. He who pays the piper calls the tune. And so we're beginning to realize that now. And the people who have gone all in, who have put all their chips in on this utopian vision of a world order based on trade and primarily trade with China, are trying to defend that. And they're defending that by lying to you, and they're doing that by defending one of the worst regimes ever in the history of the world, the Chinese Communist Party. And they're doing it through absurd tactics like trying to blame Europe for the virus, or, just whenever you point out that China might have a problem, they call it a conspiracy theory. And then when it turns out the conspiracy theory is true, they call you a racist. Hey, Michael Knowles here. And the fact is, a life of cigars and scotch does not come cheap. So please be sure to subscribe to the Daily Wire on YouTube. because I depend heavily on your support to continue this wonderful lib-triggering life. Thanks.